All right, all right, all right. Good afternoon, everybody. For those of you that are in the Zoom room, for those of you that are watching us on YouTube, for those of you that are watching us on our Linwood Facebook Live page, hey, we want to take the opportunity to welcome you. I am so excited to be with you. Listen, I'm Pastor Joe. And I'm the pastor of the Linwood Boulevard SDA Temple, and we are doing ministry, relevant ministry this afternoon. So I want to take the opportunity to welcome you to our Linwood Family Ministries presentation, where we're going to be having a seminar this afternoon on boosting health and wellness for Black families. We're going to pray together, and then I'm going to introduce our host, and we're getting right into it. But listen, I just want to take a moment to thank you again for being a part of us. I want to encourage you to subscribe to our Linwood page. I want to encourage you to share this presentation because it's going to be good. It's going to be gooder than good. So I am glad that you're here. So go get your family, go get your friends, nephews, nieces, grandchildren, boo-boo, ray, go get them all and come on and be with us because it's going to be an awesome, awesome time. I'm so proud of my family ministries team that's doing relevant ministry in the midst of this pandemic. So let's go ahead. Let's invite the Lord's presence in this place. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to be in this virtual workshop, God, that we can learn how to improve our health overall for us as Black families. We pray that your spirit would dominate, God, and that you would add, that you would just drop knowledge, oh God. We pray that there will be revelation. We pray, Lord, self-awareness will come about in this space and that you would just move in a mighty way. We pray for healing and deliverance from this workshop as well, and that it will be a tremendous blessing from those that are watching live and will watch in the future. We'll give you thanks for it all is our prayer in Jesus' name and for his name's sake. Amen and amen. Well, I want to introduce to you our host. She's no stranger because on third Sabbaths, we normally have this time together. And she was with us last month with Dr. Burkell as they presented on de-stressing. So Sister Pearl Bryant, licensed therapist here in the Kansas City, Missouri area, is our host for the day. Sister Pearl, happy Sabbath to you.
Happy Sabbath, Pastor.
Oh, it's good to see you. You've been doing double duty today because you was on for worship with us this morning, and now you're back on in the afternoon.
You're working me too hard.
I know. I've been known to do that. But listen, we're going to turn the time over to you. Thank you for doing this relevant ministry. God bless you as you lead this afternoon.
Thank you so much. I'd like to welcome you. I know that the pastor has already welcomed you, but I'd like to welcome all of you who have taken time out of your busy schedule to celebrate Black history with us. And we thought that there was no better way to celebrate it than to focus on the health and wellness of Black families. You know, when you think of wealth and you think of a legacy that you will pass on to your heirs, you usually think of material things. But you know, us Black folk haven't been known in the past to have a lot of material wealth to pass on to our families. But there's one thing that we can pass on, and that is a healthy lifestyle. For our children and for those that are in our sphere of influence to see us make healthy lifestyle choices, and they see that our health is improving. They see that although we may be 50, 65, 70, and in my mother's case, 91, and we're still exercising, we're still focusing on our health. That is the best legacy that we can pass on to the next generation. Today, I am very pleased that the team that has come together to provide this information to you is in the persons of Dr. Joyce Allison. And I think, I thought, can we focus on Dr. Allison to show her picture? Dr. Joyce Allison, there she is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can't.
You can't hear? Can you hear us? Okay, while she's working on that, she is our medical doctor that's going to be sharing the various health disparities that are taking place in our community. And then in addition to Dr. Allison, we have Karen Josiah, who is a registered dietitian.
I can't. Just getting you.
Okay, so can we go to Sister Josiah? Okay, I think we see, are you muted? Sister Josiah, are you muted? Oh, but we're still on Dr. Allison.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, very good. Okay, so we're still trying to get the technology worked out, but in the meantime, we'll go on and get started. While we're going through this presentation, I would like you, our audience, to think of your lifestyle as far as your health is concerned. All of us have areas that we're doing well in, and all of us have areas that we need to improve on. And as we're going through this presentation, I'd like for you to think about yourself. I'd like for you to think of something that you would like to change, something that you'd like to do different. And I'd like for you to think, what are you telling yourself? What are you telling yourself that keeps you from making those healthy lifestyle choices? When you participate in bad habits, do you tell yourself, oh, this little bit won't hurt? Or, oh, I can start another day. Or it's really not that bad. At least I don't do X, Y, Z. We're wanting you to be mindful and aware of the things that you're telling yourself that are barriers to you having the health that you really can achieve. While we understand as African Americans, many times we don't have access to health insurance. Sometimes because of financial issues with poverty and that kind of thing, we don't have access to purchasing a better quality of food. But there are so many things that we can initiate in order to have better health. We are known to be a resilient people. When things don't work out, we find a way. And today, as you're listening to this presentation, I'd like for you to make a note. Yes, that's something that I can incorporate. So keep yourself in mind as we go through this presentation. So first of all, Dr. Allison, I think you are able to talk now. And so we're going to let her share with us, what does it mean to have these health disparities? She's going to let us know what the stats tell us about what's happening with African American health and in comparison to our other ethnicities here in America. Okay, Dr. Allison, I'm turning it over to you.
You're muted. Dr. Allison, you're muted.
What about now?
There you go.
All right. Can you see the screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, as Sister Bryant said, we are concerned today about health, and particularly about minority African American health. And I'm just going to discuss a few things in relationship to that. There are 7 or 8 leading causes. I selected some of the very common ones to us. High blood pressure, diabetes, stroke. In fact, as you see on this slide, African Americans are more likely to die at early ages from all causes. And let me just get that up. Go back to this slide a moment. You see the dark purple line and then the light blue line. The dark purple line is discussing African Americans, and the light blue line is non-African Americans, Caucasian white folks. And almost in every category, the incidence is higher, and therefore the mortality is higher with Black Americans. And this has been a study for the National Institutes of Health and for the government. In fact, let me ask you, are your pictures blocking some of the screen? Or can you see the complete screen?
We can see the complete
Screen.
On my
Okay.
end, this is Vicky. Your picture blocks the upper portion of the screen.
Okay.
So we don't see the complete, I don't see the complete screen.
Let me see if I can get that. Okay. All right, that's a little better. Okay, so you see here some social factors and health risks that affect African Americans at younger ages. Now, there are many things that factor in to the reason that African Americans in particular have a higher incidence of these illnesses and some cancers and other illnesses pretty much across the board. You see that unemployment, of course, if you don't have a job and you live in poverty, you're not able to get expensive medical care, and you tend not to go to the doctor. No home ownership. There's no place where you can be when you're sick. You often can't see the doctor. Smoking, being not active, obesities. These are some of the top indicators that contribute to minorities, African Americans in particular, in terms of having these increased health factors. And in the next couple of slides, you will see some of the things that are happening with the government. I don't think I have the slide, but the government, the CDC, and some of the research outlets funded by our government talk about ways that we can decrease some of these risks. And in fact, even elections and politics are about this. You know, the government functions in data and keeping track in terms of what's happening to its citizens. When we get the correct data, then we can investigate why a certain population has specific problems. And of course, the church, and our church in particular, plays a big part in terms of helping to decrease some of these risk factors. You know, we have a health message historically and currently in our church that addresses some of these items like diabetes and obesity. I also want to mention something about the coronavirus or SARS, which is the actual viral name. Many people have asked how the corona vaccine works. And on the left side of the screen, you see a round viral particle with little spikes, and those spikes are called spike protein. So what scientists do is they have generated an mRNA sequence, and all our cells are made up of the building blocks, DNA and mRNA. In fact, recently, some gentlemen got the Nobel Prize for determining our whole genetic sequence. And this also extends to viruses and bacteria and other organisms. And anyway, mRNA, which stands for a messenger, these things can be, these mRNA sequences can be synthesized. And so the vaccine is made by synthesizing are targeting that spike protein. The spike protein is what punctures our cells. And then it's sort of like a little copying machine. It makes hundreds, thousands, millions of copies, and it infects our cells, and that's what causes the disease. So the vaccine takes this spike protein, and it makes copies. It covers it in a lipid coating. Now it's covered in the lipid coating, but at warm temperatures, this lipid coating breaks down. That's why the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines required cold. At any rate, the RNA sequence is the blueprint for making this spike that you saw at the beginning. And once it arrives, you get the vaccination of this synthesized spike protein. It arrives in the cells, and it reads the information, the mRNA sequence, to produce millions of copies of the spike protein. So the vaccine does not cause a production of the whole virus, but just a part. And then that is read by your body, by your immune system, and antibodies are made. And this is how antibodies are made for any illness, any virus. And so these made spike proteins, which are not part of the virus, coat the cell, and the antibodies come and block the attachment of any further viral spike proteins. And therefore, the virus spike protein cannot puncture the cell and cause illness. So that's how the coronavirus vaccine works. Now, I want to mention something of interest, particularly to us as Adventists, with the Adventist Health Study minority data, which has been going on for many years, really. Compared to other Adventists, Black Adventists have more type 2 diabetes, stroke, and high blood pressure. Black females had less cancer than non-Black females. Black males had a higher incidence, prevalence of prostate cancer than non-Black males. Obesity was more prevalent among Black participants than non-Black participants. Now, this is data from the Adventist Health Study. There were thousands of Adventists that participated in this study. 53% of Black participants reported sleeping 6 or fewer hours per night. And overall, Black Adventist participants reported better physical and mental quality of life than the US norm. Now, this is raw data that's coming in, and it's still going on. So all of the conclusions have not been reached. Now, in our church, from in the book by Ellen White, Counsels on Diet and Foods and Child Guidance, I think around page 306, you will find a statement discussing 8 natural health principles. And some may know it by the mnemonic New Start or the 8 laws of health. And they are nutrition, exercise, the use of water, sunshine, which of course stimulates vitamin D, and also helps to decrease depression and situational anxiety. Temperance, not only do we advocate no smoking or drinking or taking drugs, but we advocate being temperate in all parts of our life. Pure air, we know that fog and some of our cities all over the world that have a lot of pollution cause lung disease and other problems. Proper rest, about 8 hours of rest a night is recommended. And of course, prayer and trust in divine power are listed in these books written over 100 years ago. And these are things that we can concentrate on that don't cost a lot of money. Their pills are not included as a necessity in the 8 laws of health. But when we have illnesses and we've done all that we can do, we live in a sinful world. And if we're diabetic and we're doing all we need to do in terms of these 8 laws, we may still need to take insulin or pills for our diabetes or high blood pressure. But it boils back down to a simple but a complex reason for us to decrease these health problems, because human beings, being creatures of habit, find it very hard to make a change. So I encourage you to study each of these items. If you want to jot down New Start, it's very easy to remember what they are. So I'll turn it back over to Sister Bryant.
Before you leave that on the screen so that our participants can write that down. N is for nutrition. E is for exercise. W, water. S, sunshine. T, temperance. A, air. R, rest. And T, trust in divine power. And the reason I wanted you to write those down is because in the beginning of the workshop, I had asked you to identify one thing that you would like to improve on. And so I'm sure with these 8 laws of health, something should trigger. All right. Thank you, Dr. Allison. We appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right. And so now we're going to look at how we can address that first one with nutrition, and the things that lifestyle changes that we can make in order to achieve better health. And we're going to turn to Karen Josiah, who's a registered dietitian. Hi, Karen.
Hello. How are you all?
Oh, we're doing good. We're doing good. We're wanting you to tell us some of that good stuff.
Okay, wonderful. I'm excited about what I've heard so far from Dr. Allison. Those were excellent points, and even though we've heard about New Start so many times as Adventists, I think we take it for granted sometimes. And it helps us to just remember that we are the ones that God allowed to get this knowledge, and we need to really take his advice because it's almost like the Israelites where they got the first information, and they didn't take heed. So we're getting a second chance here.
Right.
So I'm excited about that. So anything else, or you want me to go right into it?
Yes, I had asked you to focus on healthy eating as it relates to fast foods, because I realize that, African Americans are working hard. Some moms have 2, 3 jobs, and at first glance, for some people, fast food is an option, and they don't see anything wrong with it.
Right.
And some people even think it's cheaper just to go there and grab something as opposed to cooking. So I'd like for you to share a little bit, from your perspective and what you have seen in your practice about the impact of that kind of food, on our health.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to share my screen now, and I'll get right into it.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Is anything blocking the screen?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. So first, I just want to say thank you to Sister Pearl Bryant, who is the family ministries leader for Linwood. I admire your church because you guys always do awesome programs. And I think it's really great to really divide up your church into segments and produce the best materials you can to help the congregation. So I admire that. And I also want to thank Dr. Joyce Allison for doing such a wonderful job in bringing all of the health disparities in African American communities to light. So my area is in nutrition. I'm a registered dietitian, been practicing for over 20 years. So I've seen quite a bit, and I just want to share, this is a specific area that Sister Bryant asked me to focus on, fast food versus home cooked meals. So we'll kind of delve into that and touch on some of the things that Dr. Allen spoke about. Okay. I'm going to try to advance my slides. So there are a couple of things that I wanted to focus on. And the first thing, Sister Joyce Allison mentioned the leading causes of death among African Americans. And when you look at this slide on the other side, hopefully my picture is not blocking this data. You see the first few, heart disease, which is on this top. And then we have cancers, we have, we're gonna kind of eliminate the accidents, but stroke and diabetes. So if I just pull out those first 3, heart disease, cancers, and stroke, those are among the leading causes of death in the African American community. And what I wanted to point out about those three things, they're called lifestyle diseases, meaning that these are things that are whatever we are doing in our lifestyle contributes to these incidents of either cancer, heart disease, and stroke. So what that means when you say a lifestyle disease, it means that if you change something in your lifestyle, you can decrease the incidence of having these diseases. So let's get right into it and take a look at that. So the first thing is why in the world do we eat fast food if we know that, it has a stigma of not being the best for our health? So a lot of people will give you these answers, and I know there may be many answers, but I just pulled out these few 3 points. A lot of people say, okay, it's a lot quicker. Like you've noticed we have more than one job, or we're juggling. Maybe the father is running out on a different shift and the mom is on the second shift, and we're clashing, we're coming home and we have to figure out a meal. So maybe, hey honey, grab some McDonald's and bring it home really quick. So it takes a lot less time. So why not? The other kind of idea is that it's a lot cheaper. Right now, we look at a lot of fast foods and we see the dollar menu. And you're like, okay, I've got $5. Everybody take something from the dollar menu and bring it home. And we're going to save some time and we're going to save some money. And then, believe it or not, a lot of people believe that it tastes better. They're like, oh my gosh, especially when the commercials come out. Now they're putting a hamburger with mac and cheese and bacon, and then they're adding all sorts of stuff. They're being as creative as possible with your favorite food. So you have a burger with mac and cheese layered in there, and then who knows what else they're going to come up with and add in there. So obviously those are they're speaking to the African American community. Mac and cheese on top of fried chicken, So it's quite interesting. So these are comfort foods that we love. So when we put it all together, we're like, oh my gosh, that looks so good. But these things kind of come at a cost. And there are some additional points that I didn't put here. There's a lot of people don't have access to healthy foods, like was said before. We're a lot of people are in what we call food deserts. So they don't have access to maybe a store that has healthy fruits and vegetables. So they tend to, get their foods from whatever is around the corner. And that's the main thing that they have. But I'm going to talk about some ways that we can combat that. So let's look at a couple of those things more in depth. So we choose fast foods, and another reason is time, like I said, time constraints. And that was one of the main reasons that the Seattle obesity study indicates. Time constraints prevents people from cooking at home, so they go out and get those fast foods. And then the other thing about it taking less time, one of the things we have to realize, if you see this meal here, that double cheeseburger, fries, that when you drive up to that window, you probably get this in probably less than 5 minutes. But in that 5 minutes, you are going to compromise your health so drastically, because not only are you getting tons of calories, fat, and who knows what else you're getting in that meal, that will take a lifetime to reverse. So you have to think about the costs versus the benefits. So we're going to look a little bit more at that. So let's examine the other thing. It's cheaper. I want you to look at this slide here. Do you see this meal? This is about a meal for, let's see, there's maybe a meal for 4. There's 4 drinks. So family of 4, mom and dad and 2 kids. You got your burgers, you have your fry, you have your big drinks, and then you got the 2 little kids. One is getting chicken nuggets and the other one is getting maybe a cheeseburger. That whole meal costs about $27.89, and that's one meal. we look down here and we see that for half of that cost, you can buy potatoes, some potatoes. You can buy, you know, if you bread, you can buy a whole chicken, some lemon, you got milk here and seasoning, and also some salad greens. And you can create a good healthy meal with that. And you're not going to use a whole chicken in this meal. So you're going to have some leftovers maybe for another meal, or maybe even a lunch or a dinner later on, a lunch or maybe lunch tomorrow. Here's another meal for even less than that. And this is maybe a vegetarian meal here. So you're using some beans. You've got maybe an onion here. You got some rice, some bell peppers, and some stripples. We're going to call this vegetarian stripples. Let me go back up here. So we're veggie stripples. And here you've got a good meal. You got rice and beans, which is a complete meal. You have your beans and your rice, your protein, your starch. So we can see that the myth is that it costs less, but it's not. If you keep eating fast food, your money's going out the window. On this other side, we also see a meal for $20, and then we see here that you can get quite a bit. You even get some fresh strawberries, some juice, some broccoli, some beans, some rice to create another meal. So the myth is that it's cheaper, but as you can see, it's not. Let's look at some other things here. The part about it tasting better, you know, that's debatable. One of the reasons why fast food may be perceived to taste better is psychology. First of all, they're coating your meals with a lot of fat. So when you have a high fat meal, it really coats your taste buds. So you're not really tasting things the best. And then it's super high fat, and then it's coated with lots of sugar. So if you get maybe a soft drink versus maybe a non-sweetened beverage, the sugary drink will probably taste better in your perception, but it's not exactly better. And then you're getting tons of calories and tons of carbohydrates in that meal, which leads to obesity, which is a precursor to those leading causes of death, the stroke and the diabetes. So this, you can see how all of this is forming a chain reaction here. Mm-hmm. Let's move on. Here is, we talked about that sugar. Now, most of the times, the fast food places, they're doing a number on us. When you drive up, not only do you want it fast, you don't want to think. So you say, give me a number 2 or give me a number 5, because they put it all together for you. They're putting the fries, the burger, so your whole thinking capacity is just, there's no reason for it anymore. So you get the large fries, the Coke, and that's a number 6. But I want you to examine this a little bit more. How much sugar is in those drinks? And these are regular size drinks. So you have here, this is some kind of monster drink. You have 13.5 teaspoons of sugar in this drink. Let's look at this one. This is a vitamin water, 8 teaspoons of sugar. You know those Mountain Dews? Now, this is the side that most kids drink. It's like a 20 ounce. Yeah, this is a 20 ounce here. It goes to 19.25 teaspoons of sugar. And then so on. Snapple, you got 10.5. You've got the kids love to drink, what is this, a Gatorade? But if they used a regular Gatorade, not the Gatorade Zero, you're getting about 8.5 teaspoons of sugar. And then, of course, even some of your juices, what is this one? This is sort of like a nectar, nature's nectar or something, like an iced tea. And that one has 17.5. So sometimes, even if it's not a sugary drink like a soda, you still have to be careful because they use a lot of high fructose corn syrup. And sometimes it says 10% juice, but the rest is sweetened sugars. So one of the things we want to get from this is you can make choices when you go to fast food. So you might want to say, okay, I'm going to have a water with my meal, or I'm going to get not order a drink and go home and maybe drink something from my house, and it will save you some money also. But we're going to talk about some ways that you can reduce the high calories and high fat. So that's just an example of what you get when you order those drinks. And remember, these size drinks here, I think the highest is a 20 ounce. Today, when we go to QT and we go to the gas station, what's this regular size that we see? Like 32 ounces, and people carry it around all day sipping off of that. So these are just regular. And I know people have done this experiment. I want you to, if you have a chance, I want you to take a cup of water of your typical drink, whatever size it is, if it's a 20 ounce, and I want you to take water and put 20 or 19.5, let's say 20 teaspoons of sugar, and I want you to stir it up until it all dissolves in there, and I want you to taste it. And you will see how sweet it is. One of the reasons why we don't realize how much sugar we're drinking is the carbonation. So that lime taste and that carbonation masks how much sugar we're getting. And one of the things that we usually tell individuals is that one of the main things that causes us to gain a lot of calories are these drinks. And we have a term that we call as dietitians, we call it liquid fat. So this is where a lot of your calories are coming from. So let's move on and we'll talk a little bit more in depth about that. Okay, here's another quick little snippet. This just tells you a lot about how many calories you're getting from different fast foods. And I'll just run down the line of the ones I can see. For example, look at that Big Mac, the first one. That Big Mac, you're getting 540 calories in that double. It's like a double burger. It's called a Big Mac. That's how many calories you're getting. Now, when people hear calories, they probably are like, well, I don't even know how to figure that. Like, what does 540 calories mean? So if you think about your day, the calories for a person is built on a 2,000 calorie diet. And that's just the average, like a regular grown man, 2,000 calorie. And when you look at your food labels, it's based on 2,000 calories. So that's the average for the day for probably a regular healthy man. But for a woman, it might be a small woman, it might be 1,500 calories or 14. But if you spend 540 calories on just a Big Mac, you have already used up half of your calories for the day. And that's not even the drink and the fries and the other items that you may add to that. So you can see why we are having an issue with obesity. Look at one, at Burger King, the double Whopper, 207 calories. I'm sorry, 990. So this is calories per dollar in this little red area, but this is the 990. That, for some people, all you need after eating this is one snack and you're done with your calories for the day. So look at KFC. So you get that two-piece breast, a wing meal, and you're getting 970 calories. And then this one, Pizza Hut, this is a meat lovers pepperoni pan pizza. That's 890 calories. And of course, there's other examples, but I think you get the point. Let's move down now. So I'm going to kind of look at this little illustration here. And what it says is that home cooked meals that we've proven before that it contains fewer calories because we're not adding all that fat and sugar. It contains fewer carbs, which is carbohydrates, fats, and sugars. Cooking at home, it costs less than dining out. We addressed that in the previous slides. And then it says that home cooked meals helps you to meet the food guide pyramid or your My Plate, helps you to meet that balanced diet when you cook at home versus when you eat out. Because when they put those things together for you, sometimes you're not getting a balanced meal, or if you choose it for yourself when you eat out. Meals cooked at home also can reduce your chances of childhood obesity, because if you have a small child and you start them eating fast foods from 2-3 years old, by the time they reach, a teenager, they're forming habits that eventually it's going to be hard to break. Okay, let's move on from here. So many people will ask, okay, so I am eating fast food daily at least 3 times a week or so. How can I start changing that to eat at home? And here are a couple of tips that I want to share with you. So first, you want to make sure that you're getting fresh fruits and vegetables. And these are things that can help fight off things like type 2 diabetes and hypertension. So eating more fresh fruits and vegetables, that's the first thing. So you want to go out when you're grocery shopping, make sure you're adding fresh fruits and vegetables. And if you cannot get fresh fruits and vegetables, the second tier to that would be frozen. There's nothing wrong with it. You may lose a little bit of nutrients, but not as much. And then the third tier would be canned. So fresh, frozen, canned last. Okay. Then another tip would be plan certain days of the week to cook more than one meal. And then when you do that, you can just kind of section out, this is going to be Monday's meal and so on. So and then you could use the leftovers to create another meal. So say you roasted a whole chicken on Monday, and you made a chicken dinner, and you might take the leftovers for lunch. You may turn it into other meals. And then another thing is you want to also cook simple meals that with whole grains and vegetables, something that you can prepare in less than 15 minutes. So a lot of people, when they think about cooking, they get overwhelmed because they look at all of these gourmet foods and they say, oh my gosh, I can't create anything like that. But simple meals that you can actually identify what's in the meal is better and healthier than something where it looks great, but you have to ask, what's in that meal? So all of these casseroles and you have no clue what's in there. Not saying it's unhealthy, but the better you can identify the food, like you can see a fresh piece of broccoli and you can see your rice or you can see your potato, that means that that food is more in its whole state. Mm-hmm. And when you load it down with cheeses and sauces and you can't identify what the food was in the beginning. So another thing is when you're cooking at home, you want to make sure that you're preparing balanced meals. So the latest food guide would be the My Plate project. And as you can see here in this My Plate, you want to make sure that you're getting something from each food group. So fruits, veggies, grains, and protein. And then of course some dairy, or if you don't do dairy, some type of soy. So I'm going to give you a couple of quick tips. When you make your plate, what you want to do is make sure about half of your plate is from the fruit and vegetable group. A quarter of the plate should be from the grain group, and then another quarter from the protein group. And then of course your low fat dairy. So if you are using dairy products, you want to make sure you're switching to like a low fat dairy, like a 1% milk, or if you want to go with a low fat soy milk, you could do that also. And then in this protein section, because this is where we get most of our calories on this side of the plate, you want to make sure in this protein section that you're getting a variety of protein. So a lot of people may focus on one type of protein that they like. So for example, I like chicken, or I like fried chicken. You might want to kind of mix that up and do, you know, chicken, fish, maybe. You want to do different things. And also what I like to encourage people is to do some non-meat items for your protein. So things like tofu, beans, peas, lentils, peanut butter. These are all sources of protein that you can use. And then also another thing is your cooking methods. You want to make sure you're using low fat cooking methods. So things like stir frying rather than maybe deep frying, baking, broiling, steaming. Those are all low fat cooking methods that can help you to reduce your fat intake. And then another thing, if you're not, I know everyone is not a vegetarian. So when you're going out to buy your meats, you want to look for lean meats. One of the things that I'm a vegetarian, so this is just information that I have. There's numbers on your meat when you buy it. So those numbers tell you the percentage of the lean meat versus the fat. So when you look, there's a little tape on your meat, or if you buy it from the butcher, you might want to say, hey, I want 80-20. So that means 80% lean and 20% fat. It may be a little bit more expensive, but it's healthier for you. Or you might say 90-10. I believe 90-10 is like the highest that you can get when it comes to lean meats. So those are things you want to be aware of. You don't just want to go into the store and just pick up any parcel of meat that you see. And when you see the meat looks kind of with the white stuff, that's the fat. So you want to see more like chicken breast. You want to see more like lean meat versus the marbling of the meat, or even sometimes you may not be able to identify it like that. If you're buying ground meat, that's when you want to look for that 80-20, because everything is just ground up in there and the fat's all ground up. So you want to look for those numbers when you look for those lean meats. I wanted to give you a couple of examples since we talked about healthy meals. What does that really look like? So here's some example. I'll show you some examples of like a quick breakfast, some examples of lunches and dinners. So this is a good quick breakfast rather than going to McDonald's and getting a breakfast. I don't know what they have, like an egg and bacon and cheese. This is a really healthy breakfast. So this is like oatmeal, half a cup of oatmeal, a cup of soy milk or skim milk, some fresh fruit you can cut up on top, and then you can have that with a cup of orange juice. So you're meeting all of your food, you're meeting all the areas on your food. So the oatmeal would be your grains, your fruit would be here, and then your protein comes from the milk that you're getting there. And then your fruit, you're getting about maybe a half of your serving with the fruit on top, and then your orange juice would give you the other half. So that's how you look at how you get that balanced meal. Here's another breakfast: a slice of wheat bread. You have an egg, or if you don't eat eggs, you can do scrambled tofu, a quarter of an avocado sliced up, and then either your soy milk or your skim milk could be your beverage on the side. So those are just some quick examples, and these don't take a long time to prepare. And I just wanted to add that breakfast is one of the most important meals of the day. We hear this quite a bit. It kind of kickstarts your appetite and your metabolism for the day. A a lot of times people feel like if they don't eat breakfast, they're saving some calories or they're going to lose weight. But actually, it causes you to eat more during the day when you skip meals. So try to avoid it and make sure you're eating your breakfast. So let's look at some lunch ideas. So we saw back in that example, like someone had bought this whole chicken and they made like a chicken, they roasted a chicken, which they had in the maybe for their dinner meal. And then maybe after they had that dinner, there's some leftover chicken breast that we can make into a chicken salad, ground that chicken up, maybe add some veggies, some fresh veggies, some onions, and so on. And if you're a vegetarian, you can still make a chicken salad sandwich from vegetarian chicken products. So this is, and maybe some whole wheat bread and some fresh tomatoes. And if you have these little lunch containers, that's a good way to add that. Or you can decide, I want to use a whole piece of chicken breast, maybe 3 ounces. And then you have some broccoli with that and your beverage. And that's a good lunch. Here's another one. Your protein, your egg, got some avocado and some bananas and some blueberries. And then this one is just like a cucumber, tomato salad that you kind of put it all together. And that could be another lunch idea. So when it comes now to dinner time, so you did all this work, early in the week, and you made your lunches, and now you come home and there's some leftover chicken in the fridge, and you want to do something different. You're tired of eating chicken, so how about maybe a rice bowl or a quinoa bowl? Bowls are really awesome because they're quick to prepare. You don't have to do a whole lot. If you had some rice that you cooked earlier, you put maybe a little half a cup of rice. You have your chopped up chicken. You might do some peas, whatever peas you like, and then maybe some veggies. This is just an example. This is cabbage and sweet peppers. And then the nice thing about rice bowls, you can create your own dressing. So if you wanted to make like a nice, maybe a mix, some lemon juice, some olive oil, or whatever you want to put, some soy sauce, and kind of shake it up and then pour it over that. That makes a really great meal. Here's another idea that you can, if you don't like rice, here's a quick pasta meal when you come home. It just takes maybe even 8 minutes to boil this pasta. Cut up some veggies and some tomatoes. Here's your chicken, some red peppers and onions, and strip that chicken up, and you have another meal here. This is just some example of that recipe for this, and making your own dressing here also. Here's another dinner idea. This one is a baked sweet potato. So you come home, you're exhausted, you're tired, you don't want to have to break out and cook a whole meal. So what you do, pop some white potatoes in the oven or a sweet potato. It takes about maybe half an hour to 45 minutes to bake it. You can poke some holes in it before you get started, and you put it in the oven. It's cooking for itself, so you can go on and do some other things. You're taking some black beans, cut up some scallions, some other items, some peppers. And when the potato is done, you may put some low-fat cheese on there, or you could even use vegan cheese. Put it on there. You put some sour cream. You have some salsa on the side, and you have a meal there. It's complete, balanced meal, and it's healthy for you. And by the way, your sweet potatoes and your carrots, those orange type of vegetables, they are very high in vitamin A. And it's recommended that you eat something that's orange, like squash or sweet potato, carrots, 3 times a week. Have a serving of that. Helps with your eyes and night vision and so on. So I hope that we have kind of, I'll say, prove our point about how good it is to try to be in control of your diet and make healthy choices. And I just wanted to, some people may say, well, I'm not sure how to do these things. I'm really kind of anal. I need to have recipes. If you need recipes, if you don't cook off the fly like some people, you might want to just invest in a few cookbooks. You can, and if you don't want to purchase a cookbook, you can go to the library and borrow one and just make a copy or write down the recipes that you like. This is one that's very familiar to the Adventist population, More Choices Cookbook. And this has a host of vegetarian recipes in there, from breakfast to lunches and dinners. So if you like cookbooks, you can get the latest version of these. And then I had a couple of links here that you can get some other ideas. I'm going to hit this. This is my plate. If I lose you guys, I'm going to hit this so you can see how to navigate this. Uh-oh. Well, anyway, I don't know if Jonathan, oh, here it is. So I'm just going to pull this up. Can you see the link coming up?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So just going to show you this. So this is the My Plate page. And basically anything that you want to know about the fruits, veggies, and just the tips. And then there's an app also. And then if you need like resources, like recipes, there's a recipe area here. Anything that you would like to have information. And then it talks more about other things if you want to look at that. So I'm going to close this link out. You can also Google recipes. I know that, for example, I'm from the islands, and there are things that I used to cook when I was a little girl that I kind of forgot how to do it. And you can just Google it, or even if you wanted to make something from another ethnic group and you don't know how to, you just Google that recipe and you can make whatever it is that you'd like. I've done it and it turns out really good. But anything, the internet is making everything international these days. So anything that you want to make, it's available. I want to show you this other quick link here. This one is exciting. I'm not going to play the whole thing to bore you, but you guys all know this young lady. And usually it has a lot of ads in it. So I'm going to just show you really quick. This is another one. Like if you're looking for vegetarian recipes.
In an ever-changing world.
Hold on. I'm going to try to skip this. Okay. So you when you see this person, you'll get excited.
All these things are found at your local grocery store, 99-cent store, honey. You can even go to Dollar Tree and get spices, okay? Hey, I'm Tabitha Brown, and I'm here with my friend Destiny. Hey, girl. And I'm going to show her how to prep 12 vegan meals in 90 minutes.
I am new to this whole vegan thing. I don't really know where to start with my meal prepping.
I can help you out. Okay. So for breakfast, we're going to do a tofu scramble. Okay. Put a little sweet potatoes in there. That's one of my favorites. Yeah. Then for lunch, we're going to create a couple of grain bowls. You can do all kinds of things with those. And then for dinner, we'll have a little bolognese, as y'all call it. I just call it spaghetti growing up. But I'm also going to show you how to like mix and match it so it doesn't get boring and you get a variety.
Awesome. I love that. Well, I'm really excited to see like if we can get all this done in 90.
Okay, so I'm going to fast forward it down to the end. Let's see if we can actually get there. This is just some ideas, some quick ideas that I know we're going to get more of the commercials, so I'm going to try to skip it. So these are some.
So now what we'll do is add a little bit of our red wine, okay, and then a little bit of salt just for taste. Let's go ahead and stir it up, and then what we'll do is we'll leave this uncovered and let the wine kind of cook down in there for about 10 minutes. Okay. And now it's been enough time that our boiling water is time to add the pasta.
Let's do it.
Voila! Okay, so let's start with our breakfast. So we have our breakfast scramble.
Okay.
With our sweet potatoes. You have it just like this, or you can get fancy and make a breakfast burrito.
Yum.
And we add a little bit of our roasted red peppers in there, to add a little flavor.
Yeah. That's really good. Wow.
And we have these amazing grain bowls. Under the bottom, we have our quinoa.
Yum.
We just mix up our dressing. So we have our pesto.
Yes.
And then we got our tahini dressing.
Yes.
Made. And then if you notice, you see we have half with the sweet potatoes and then half with the red peppers.
Yes.
Because we mixed it with our breakfast burrito.
Yes.
That way we won't get so bored. Try it out.
Mmm.
Girl, you did that?
That feels good.
Who made it? Go ahead, girl. For breakfast and lunch, these are usually ones that you take on the go.
Right.
So you individualize them,
Right.
in containers. But with dinner, I keep the bolognese sauce in the pan, and like our big salad, we keep that in a container.
Right.
Because we make our dinner at home.
Right.
So we have our standard way with our noodles and the bolognese on the top.
Right.
And then if you say, you know what, I'm trying to do right with my life, you can use some zucchini noodles
Okay.
or whatever veggie noodle that you want to use.
Okay.
And then if you get to the point and you say, honey, I am bolognese out.
No more.
I don't want no more. Put the thing on in the freezer. And
Okay, so I'm gonna close this link out, and okay, and then we'll get back. So those are just some ideas, and I know when you look at Tabitha Brown, you just get hooked because she's such a great presenter. So those are just some ideas, and if you know of like your favorite maybe a person who's a cooking show individual, you can Google them, you can get some ideas, and they will walk you through the whole thing. So these are things just to empower us to make healthy choices. And I'll move on to my last slide. If you guys need any information, this is my business, Whole Health Nutrition Services. You can give me a call if you need a nutrition consult, or if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer that. And this is just some information about what type of services we provide: weight management, diabetes, kidney disease, hypertension intervention, and also just nutrition education. So I want to thank Sister Pearl Bryant so much for allowing me to present, and I'll let her take it away with any questions for any of the presenters at this time. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Take your screen down.
Yeah, I will. Thank
Okay.
you.
Oh, okay, great. All right, thank you so much. Oh, my goodness. After looking at all of that food, I don't know about the rest of you, but it's like I'm having to remind myself that I have decided that I want to do healthy eating. At this moment, I'd like for you to check in with your thoughts. What are you thinking right now? Are you thinking, whoa, this is just too much? Or are you thinking, I really wish I could, but I don't know if this is something that I can do? I'd like for you to look at what researchers call the 4 stages of change. There are 4 stages of change, and they have found that people go through these stages before they are really ready to change. And so I'd like for you just to identify where you think you are as it relates to making a lifestyle change for yourself. Okay, so number 1 is what we call the pre-contemplation stage. This is when you're in denial and you really don't see anything wrong with what you're doing. And you're really not even interested in hearing any information about change. The second stage is contemplation. This is when you're beginning to think about it, and you're looking at possibly the benefits for change, but you're still just thinking about it. You're contemplating it. Now, the third stage is preparation, the preparation stage. This is when you're visualizing, well, maybe I could cut back a little bit, or maybe I could just tweak my nutrition in this area, or maybe I could just go to bed 30 minutes earlier, or maybe I could just add 1 glass of water per day. So here you are, you're trying to come up with ways whereby you really can change your environment, come up with ways to make it happen. Now, the action stage, that's when you are ready to look at, I need to do this differently in order to get the results that I'm looking for. This is the stage whereby you're convinced, when I look at my long range goal, when I look at the potential of my life, I don't want to do anything in the short term to mess that up. So I want to do some action here. Now, the maintenance stage is when you've been, you've actually been doing the action, and you've been doing it long enough now where it's becoming pretty a habit for you. But then life happens. You may go through a stressful period in your life. Something happens that you just weren't planning for. And before you know it, you are being triggered to go back to that old coping strategy of doing that that injurious habit to your health. And sometimes people do relapse, but there's hope, everybody. Just because you drop off the bandwagon, your brain holds on to memory. It remembers those choices that you were making. It remembers. And so if you can get back on and keep trying, you will be successful. I'm thinking right now of the 8 laws of health. Remember, what was that last one? What was that last law of health? Trust in what?
Divine
Trust in
power.
divine power. Yes, yes. We as a people are known to be resilient. We're known to be sociable. We like to work helping others, being in community. And we are a spiritual people. Our forefathers made it because they believed in God. So there's a slogan that we say at our church, and that is, you were built for this. So I'd like to leave you with hope today. You are built to make changes that can totally revolutionize your life. So don't fall into the trap of, I'm just doomed to having poor health. That's not true. There are so many options that you do have, and we're here to help you make that happen. So at this time, we're going to open it up for hearing from our audience. Any questions, comments? Can our presenters answer some questions for you?
Yes, we have a question from Ron and Phyllis Garnett. They're asking, do we get the same nutritional value from frozen fruit and vegetables? For Karen, I believe.
So as I said earlier, briefly, your nutrition value decreases slightly with frozen fruits or vegetables. but you still get quite a bit of the nutritional value. The fresh would have the most nutritional value because it's in its natural state. Also, you're getting a lot of the fiber. When you go to that frozen, you may lose just a little bit from the processing and being in the freezer, and also you may lose some of the fiber. So there's some nutrition that you lose, but it's not a total loss. It's still very healthy, and it's a healthy option. The worst is the can, because they're cooking it down and then they're preserving it in liquid. So sometimes the can be the lowest nutritional value. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
All right. I want to encourage those who don't necessarily want to type their question in the chat, either on Facebook, YouTube, or here in Zoom, to go ahead and press the raise your hand button, and I'll make sure to add you onto the list of questionnaires. Now we have a question from Miss Riley. She wanted to know any ideas that you had to help her teenage sons appreciate healthier meals like quinoa bowls.
So one of the things that they recommend is trying to involve your child, even if it's a teenager or a younger person, to be involved with the grocery shopping and also be involved with meal preparation. So, for example, if you have someone, you may say, "Hey, how about you tell us, choose a meal that you would like," and then you kind of guide them along, but let them be the ones to initiate the meal and also find a way to make it healthy and be involved with the preparation. They say that is something that helps them to be involved and then appreciate it, because they feel like, hey, look what I came up with. Look at my creation. And also using cookbooks that probably are geared towards teens, because maybe a quinoa bowl may be something maybe an adult would like, but there's still healthy meals that maybe a young person could like. Like they can make a healthy pizza, because they may like fast food, but you can make it in a healthier way. So you kind of go with things that they like, maybe find recipes and cooks. You can Google recipes for teens, healthy recipes for teens, things like that. Hopefully that helps.
All right. We have another question here on YouTube. The question is, what about people who like to eat the skin of baked potatoes? Do we need to find organic potatoes?
Well, I'm sure anyone can answer that, but one of the things with the skin of a potato, it's actually very healthy. I encourage people as much as possible to keep the skin on your potatoes. Scrub it really good. When you get it, you want to wash it. If you want to use a scrubby part of the sponge, don't use soap or anything, but scrub it off really good. And then you either can bake it. You can also even just cut it up and boil it with the skin. But, if you don't want to boil it, you can put it in the oven and roast it. So the skin is fine. And also what you get with the skin, not only do you get more fiber, which is healthy for your body, you also get more of the vitamin D, which is right between that skin and the potato itself. You'll get some of that vitamin D, and you want to make sure that you're eating the whole potato. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually healthier. Good question.
All right. We have another question here. How nutritional are alfalfa sprouts and bean sprouts and even broccoli sprouts?
Okay. I don't want to hog all the questions. So if somebody else feels like they can answer, I can answer it. But yeah. Do you want to say something, Sister Allen?
No, you're doing a good job.
Okay. So as far as sprouts, they are very high in B vitamins. One of the concerns we have as people who are vegan or someone who are maybe eliminating some things out of their diet, they probably worry the most about vitamin B, B12 in particular. Usually we have to get that through fortified foods or maybe taking a supplement. But one of the natural sources of vitamin B and B12 is through sprouts and things like that. So you can use those sprouts, you can sprinkle it on a salad, you can, add it on a sandwich. It's actually really good. So you're getting B vitamins with that. So kudos.
All right, we've come near to the end of our questions here, but if anyone has a question right now, they can go ahead and raise their hand, or if you don't know how to raise your hand, that's okay. You can go ahead and place your question in the chat. Or
there was a question that came through, I guess it was directed to me about the vaccine for the coronavirus. Okay. And I think, of course, the Pfizer vaccine came out first, and then Moderna in terms of being authorized in our country. But those viruses are somewhat similar to the slide that I showed. I think Johnson & Johnson has been approved. And it's a one-shot vaccine. But I think if you listen to Dr. Fauci and some of the experts about the vaccine, they're encouraging right now for everyone to get the vaccine that's offered to them. Although the one-shot vaccine may have less than 70% effectiveness, the thought is that some effectiveness is better than no effectiveness. The two vaccines that are out now are kind of amazing in terms of being over 94, 95 and upwards percent effective. So if you remember the slide that I showed, basically how they work is a vaccine stimulates your body to produce antibodies against the harmful part of the vaccine. And of course, that's better than going to the hospital and being at risk for death. I lost some close friends from the virus, and it's nothing to play with. Some of you may have heard of herd immunity. Until over 80, 90% of our country is vaccinated or has immunity to the virus, we can't have herd immunity. And, we think like a herd of cows, basically until the whole population, a good percentage of us have immunity to that vaccine, our lives won't go back to normal. You see some of the pictures and people in other countries, particularly in Asian countries, where they're wearing masks, even for the flu virus. Mm-hmm. Now, one interesting thing is the flu virus, the incidents of that have gone down this year, probably because many of us are wearing masks. So African Americans, minority populations are having a harder time with coronavirus. So we all need to get vaccinated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, as we continue here, we have another question here in the Zoom chat. Shauna's question is, what about sugar substitutes? Should we eliminate all together?
As far as sugar substitutes, there, you have to be, you have to look at them and see, as far as, there's some artificial ones and then there are some natural ones. So for example, like stevia, agave nectar, those are some sugar substitutes that are from natural sources. Then you have other items like aspartame, and some other ones. Those are just a few I can think of off the top of my head. But the sugar substitutes, just look at the source and, you know, depending on if you know the science behind like aspartame, they had a lot of questions on that as far as cancer causing and so on. So try to educate yourself on them. Natural is always better than artificial. And also with the artificial sweeteners, you kind of, there's been a lot of research indicating that the body is kind of mimicking the effects of just having sugar with the sugar substitutes. So that's kind of some new research that was out there. Like people weren't losing weight as much because the brain was being tricked into believing that it was sugar. So I'm not talking about the natural ones. I'm talking about some of the sugar substitutes that are artificial. So I would say if you're looking for something artificial, I mean, as a substitute, go for like a flavored water where they're using more of like the natural fruit juices to flavor something rather than maybe something made in a lab, like some artificial type thing, or use things like agave nectar or cane juice, things like that. Okay.
All right, we have another question here on the YouTube chat. It's a question relating to iron. The question is, why are so many of us low in iron? Because they hear that people are often low of iron all the time.
Do you want to tackle that, Sister Allison?
Well, you know, it's an interesting thing. You may have gone to the doctor's office and they got something called a CBC or a complete blood count. And it came back that your hemoglobin and your hematocrit, those are two items in that lab report, are low. Now, what's interesting is just because there's another thing called the MCV, which shows the size of your cells. And if those are low, you might have a different type of anemia other than iron deficient anemia. But some common ways to have iron deficient anemia, which is really shouldn't be common in our, and I'll let Sister Josiah talk about that in terms of our food, but basically there are things called sideroblastic anemia, thalassemia, and other types of anemia that cause the cells to be small, and the lab picks it up as a similar to an iron deficient anemia. But some common things that alert the doctor or the nurse practitioner to iron deficiency, besides those lab results, is a person having some form of bleeding. Okay. Are they having internal bleeding? You know, I ask ladies sometimes right before the menopause have very high, large abnormal periods, and they're bleeding a lot and they become anemic. Sometimes a person has a cancer syndrome, or sometimes they're bleeding rectally. So those are things to be evaluated. And so we want to know the reason why before we give you loads of iron tablets.
Yes.
So you want to say something else about that?
Yeah. So just to piggyback on what Sister Allison said very adequately, just a common iron deficiency that you see that quite a bit with teenagers. One of the things that we notice is that what contributes to the low iron is people aren't eating balanced meals, and they're also skipping quite a bit of meals. So they're not getting the adequate amount of nutrients to provide those micronutrients that they need, like iron, different things like potassium, calcium. So you need those to get those things from food. And if you're not eating balanced meals, if you're not eating on time and the proper amount of foods, you can become deficient in either iron, which is one of the most common ones, and then other things. So before you, you want to discuss it with a doctor, like Dr. Allison said, but before you, try to buy some iron pills or anything, just examine your life. See, is it that I'm not eating my breakfast, I'm not eating lunch, or I'm on the go and I'm not balancing my meals out? And then another thing you can do is look for high iron foods. So things like dried fruit, dark leafy green vegetables, things like that you want to incorporate into your diet. Make sure you're getting whole grains, whole wheat bread, different types of grains in those are very high in iron. So you make sure that you're getting all those things and you're eating on time, and that should correct itself. If it doesn't, you want to see a doctor about that.
All right. For Dr. Joyce, there was a question that came in here from Sister Fatoma. She asked, why does having and surviving the virus make one immune to the virus? Or if that is true at all.
Okay, that's a good question. I don't think we know for sure about how immune you are after having the virus. It has to do, interesting thing about all viruses, even this coronavirus, is there's no medicine that attacks the virus directly. The only power we have is our immune system. And our immune system recognizes the virus and illnesses as foreign. And then one way that it fights the virus is to make something called antibodies. And God made us in such a way that these antibodies come from our own immune system factory. And the reason that we don't fight the virus initially is because the virus is replicating so fast. There's so large numbers of the virus in our bodies that our immune system is overrun, and it can't kill or stop the virus. So I don't think anyone knows. They're studying that right now. It seems that people that were very ill and survived have a higher level of antibodies. That's as far as I read, but we don't know for sure. Remember when some of the celebrities and then the former president was sick, he got the antibody through a company, Regeneron. And so they actually gave them infusions of antibodies. It seems to help for some people that are sick. We don't know if the timing is crucial. It's not something that you get out of the hospital. So this is a devilish virus, just say it like that. However it came to be, it right now, worldwide, people did not have immunity to it. But it looks like the vaccine will help to keep people out of the hospital and help to stop people from dying. And I think right now, that's what we need to be concentrated on.
All right, we have another question in the chat pertaining to vitamins. Question is it true that Black people tend to have low vitamin D levels? If so, how do you get vitamin D in food? Do you have any suggestions for good cost-effective supplements that don't have gelatin?
Oh, okay. So as far as vitamin D being low in African Americans, I'm not sure if it's more in our population, but in North America or even countries that have the winter seasons, people tend to be indoors quite a bit. They're not getting sunlight. So the body, when you are in the sun, your body has a mechanism to make vitamin D. And if we are not, we tend to be more kind of indoors. We work in the office, drive from our garage to the garage of our job, inside all day long, and we're not kind of outside. So that alone says that we need to be getting out a little bit more and getting more sunlight. That's the first thing. And then as far as foods are concerned, you can look for foods that are high in vitamin D. We know that, like I said, the skin of potatoes or even eating a baked potato has some sort of vitamin D. There are other foods that are high in vitamin D, and you can kind of just Google that and see. And then as far as supplements go, I would first go with the food. And one of the things I want to mention about supplements, if you would like to take a supplement, make sure that when you choose a supplement that you look on the label. It should not be like 2,000% of any of those nutrients. It should be closer to 100% in most of the categories. If you're looking for like these super vitamins, they can actually affect your kidneys and put a lot of stress on your body. So unless the doctor is prescribing a high dose vitamin for something, you should kind of stay away from that. So if you're doing that, and if you're looking for a vegan source, you can go to a health food store. There are many vitamins. As a matter of fact, the ones that I buy for my kids, that they use periodically. They don't use it like every single day, but they have vitamins that are from vegan sources only. There's like Nature's vitamin and so on. You can just go to like a Sprouts. You can go to a health food store, any of those stores, and you can tell them you're looking for a natural vitamin, and you will be able to a multivitamin, I would say. And I would stay away from buying vitamins with the individual nutrient and just go with a multivitamin. Because if you just pick out the one thing, you could be buying quite a bit of items, like next minute you'll find out you're low in something else and you're buying that. So it's better to just get it all in one option, And as far as cost effectiveness, you don't have to go with the best name brand of a vitamin. You go to the store. If there's like, I believe there's some brands called, that's the store brand. It might still be just as good as the higher priced one. You just look at the back and look at the label, compare it to that high priced one. And if you see that it lines up and it looks like it meets all of those requirements, then I would say go for the cheaper one.
Right. I just wanted to say also folks should remember that there are fat-soluble vitamins and water-soluble vitamins.
Right.
The fat-soluble vitamins, for the most part, I remember by a mnemonic, ADEK, ADENK. And you can potentially get too much of the fat-soluble vitamins. So, as Sister Karen said, you shouldn't be loading yourself down with particularly the fat-soluble ones.
Right.
And the water-soluble ones, of course, they're going to come right out in your urine if you're taking too much that your body can't use.
Right.
All right.
Also, I mentioned one thing. I advise people to take their vitamins with food because vitamins are called coenzymes. In other words, they are partners to help speed up the reactions from the nutrients in our foods. So you just don't want to pop the pill without putting it with its partner.
Absolutely.
All right. Seems like we've reached here the end of our questions. So, Sister Pearl.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. I'd like to thank our presenters for doing an outstanding job. And if those of you that have been watching can put something in the chat, just letting us know what your responses are. But I'm really hoping that we can do something like this again sometimes, just to do a check-in, maybe 6 months later or whatever, to see how many people really were able to set a goal during this presentation and they hung in there. It's all about change, and it's all about having an attitude whereby you really believe that with God's help, you can have a healthy lifestyle. So ladies, thank you so much. And we will definitely be in touch with you for the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
It's our pleasure.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Tremendous presentations.
Thank you, Sister Pearl, Karen, Josiah, and Dr. Joyce Allison. Everyone, have a pleasant day, and thank you for joining us. Bye.